Welcome back to another show of Instant Celebrity Maker. Today, I have a truly rare guest because she is a rare disease advocate. Her name is Beth Nguyen. Yes, When would be the phonetic way to spell it, but since it's Nguyen, we'll stay with Wen. And welcome to the show today, Beth.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're a rare disease advocate. Tell us a little bit about that particular category because it truly is rare. I've never met anybody in your position.
It is rare. Rare diseases affect about 1 in 10 individuals. So, chances are in your lifetime you will meet or know someone with a rare disease. There are 30 million with rare diseases in the US alone, and there are about 7,000 rare diseases at
Jeez.
last check.
30 million. I mean, that's about 9% of the US population.
hmm
Wow. Okay. Well, let's just jump in and talk a little bit about you. How would your friends describe you?
My friends would describe me as someone with just a deep passion for people in need, basically. If I see someone out there with an unmet need, I want to solve it. They would describe me as someone who's a change maker, someone who doesn't give up. So if you give me a problem, I'm working on solving it.
Yeah, and I know that you've contracted a rare disease yourself, and I had a little bit of an opportunity before we began the show was how you got into this because you contracted something and didn't know what it was for several years, and you're also a registered nurse, and it had to
Right.
have been a little bit frustrating.
It was frustrating. So back in 2012, I had 15 years of experience working at the bedside. My last area I worked was in emergency room. And despite my critical care training, it still took 5 years from onset of symptoms to diagnosis of my rare disease. My rare disease is called primary syringomyelia, and it is a disease that can damage the spinal cord and spinal nerves, which then can affect multiple body systems, which is how I ended up with diastolic heart failure, pulmonary hypertension, intracranial hypertension, and dysautonomia. So, in knowing that it took 5 years to get a diagnosis, during that 5 year time period, I could have had intervention and treatment to prevent some of the complications that I ended up with that are lifelong. Knowing that, and also looking at Google to try to find resources on rare diseases, back in 2012, there were very few resources available to me. So it really fueled a fire inside of me to try and spearhead efforts to help the rare community. So now I wear several leadership hats to give back and really help patients and families that are facing rare diseases themselves. Mine is genetic. It does run in families, and there is an incidence when it's connected to trauma as well. So, if there are opportunities to teach and share information about rare diseases with yourself and medical teams wanting to learn, I'm there.
Okay. And what would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
My greatest accomplishment is just serving others and making a difference, however small, in the life of someone else to help them somewhere along their path in life.
Okay. And what do you wish you had known when you started out? And you can answer this. You have great latitude in your response.
Oh, wow. Patience, because in starting all these efforts for the rare community, you have to literally go out and start from scratch. It's like building a fire. You have to go out and get the wood and get the kindling and build the fire. And then if you need bread, just this comparison. If you need bread, you have to go grow the wheat first in the field, then harvest it, then, it's a process. So for myself, with the rare community, I wished I had known that it would take years, that it's not something that can change overnight. Because in the beginning, I set out, I wanted to change everything in a short period of time, and I've learned to have more patience through this process and understand that it's going to take quite a bit of time to make the kind of changes we want to make.
Okay. And what are you curious about right now
Wow.
in the world, in your life, in the rare community, whatever way you want to respond to this so the message could be heard?
Is it pertaining just to rare or
No,
life
it
in
could
general?
anything you want. It could be the COVID pandemic. It could be Biden's third shot. I mean, anything you want to say.
I'm curious right now about basically whether or not other nurses would be interested in joining me to support this effort. I'm curious about the COVID pandemic and all of the misinformation that's shared currently. How can we make that better so more people are informed with medical facts and scientific information versus the court of public opinion?
All right. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to ask something a bit controversial. Are
Sure.
vaccines necessary?
I can't speak for anybody else, but I will speak for myself. And it's that for me and my family, we are vaccinated because I believe in it. I believe
Okay.
in medical facts and in science.
Okay, good. I'm not going to state an opinion because I don't believe I'm qualified. You being a medical professional are qualified, that's why I asked. All right. And what's something you have failed at?
Hmm. I failed at writing a book and having it published because I didn't understand the steps to get there.
And you have done that already?
I did that.
Okay.
I did publish a short synopsis as an ebook, and then I ventured forth to have a book published and failed at it miserably.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that. I have also been through the process of being published with a mainstream publisher, and I know the ins and outs, and that's a whole other topic we could discuss. But if you could have coffee with any historical figure, and this is my favorite question, by the way, who would it be? And here's the caveat: the person has to be no longer with us.
Wow. So I would love to meet and have coffee with Florence Nightingale.
Florence Nightingale. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she really was a pioneer in nursing, and I've always admired her and just everything she went through, and the fact that she spearheaded a lot of efforts for how we move forward with healthcare today.
Okay. See, I would have guessed. I had a mental note here because of your background. Louis Pasteur, somebody like that. But okay, Florence Nightingale is it is. And who's been your most important professional mentor?
Wow. Professionally, I would have to say Damon John is amazing.
Damon
Um,
John. Okay. Wow. From the Shark Tank.
yes, he reached out and got in touch with me and has been mentoring me through this journey with Rare Strides, and I'm very thankful for him because he's basically helped me grow professionally in ways that I couldn't have done on my own.
Very nice. Okay. And if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
The road ahead is going to be full of curveballs, but hang in there because it's also full of blessings.
Oh, great lesson. Great. And you have goals because you're still pushing forward. You're involved in a nonprofit. You're a lady with purpose. What is your plan to achieve your goals? And let's give it a 2 year time horizon.
So, over 2 years, as it pertains to Rare Strides, I would really like to see it grow into all rural and outpatient settings in healthcare. We have a program called Code Rare where we are involving first responders, emergency rooms, and really focusing on that evidence based education about rare diseases to help inspire medical teams to really help the rare community and also to empower them with information so that they can have a resource for their day-to-day care. The other is I'd like to see our Rare Wish Fund give back to about at least 50 to 100 nonprofits so that they can then grant wishes for children and adults in their community.
Okay.
50, I would say 100's a hefty goal. 50.
Okay. And how do you overcome a challenge when life throws one at you? And we've all had this.
I smile and I keep going. I say, okay, is that all you got? Let's go.
All right. Well, I was going to ask this question, but you answered it a little bit. If you had to write a book tomorrow, let's say a second book, since you've already written one, what would you write about? Because you already learned the first lesson from writing and you said you failed at it. I don't look at anything as a failure, it's a learning experience. And if
Mm-hmm.
you would categorize it that way, then you can look at, well, how would you write a second book?
The first book was focused more on my illness. I think the second book would be focused more on some of these leadership opportunities I've had and how it ties back into helping the rare community, more from a professional point of view in what I've learned going through this process of spearheading different efforts, particularly with the nonprofit and then the corporate space with Rare Strides, um, to encourage others with rare like me to know you can grow, you can move forward, even with great adversity. You just have to stay focused and have the determination. Uh, Sometimes it helps me to help others and focus away from the challenges of my own illness.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
All right. Now, here, this gives you a little bit of latitude. What's one question you wish I had asked you? And how would you have answered?
Oh wow. Maybe what influenced me in my childhood, like who influenced me to get into healthcare or medicine as a nurse?
Who influenced you to get into to medicine and healthcare?
My grandfather, Dr. Matheny in Rome. He was a pediatrician. He carried a black bag and he made house calls. And
That was your
he
grandpa.
definitely influenced me. Hmm?
That was your grandpa.
My grandfather, yes. And my great grandfather was the president, Leland Green, at Berry College. And despite great adversity, he still made big strides in developing that program for with Martha Berry for children for adults. Um, so I really think that a combination of my grandfather and my great grandfather, their influence is what helped to inspire me to continue when I felt like giving up.
Okay. Okay. Great. And how do you promote your company brand? Let's because in your case, I usually say personal brand, but it's more about the advocacy work you're doing. And what do you
Mhm.
do to get the word out there? Because I'd never heard of this category before. I know it exists, but I didn't know much about it until today.
Well, with myself, I had to start out with few resources. So all of this has built up over time. And in order to get the word out, I do interviews. I've had interviews with Cosmopolitan, Huffington Post. So there's that. There are opportunities to write articles and white papers to get the word out, posters, and then marketing. and stuff like today.
Got it. So have you been on TV?
I have been involved in interviews with big news stations, but I've not had the opportunity to go into a studio. I would love that.
Okay. And how can I support you?
Support Rare Strides, support Code Rare, share the word about Code Rare so that medical teams and families and individuals affected by rare diseases know that there's something there to provide support in medical settings. Also, help me recruit nurses. I need nurses for our Speakers Bureau, so I need to spread the word.
I do have a nurse for you who's a retired RN who has a rare disease herself. She's out of Philadelphia. She's a client, and I'm going to refer you to her after the show. She'd be a perfect person for you. And she
Thank you so much.
loves to speak.
Awesome.
She loves to speak, and she's also an Italian American, and loves. I mean, and she's out there. So, and she's a wonderful heart-centered person. I'll introduce you to after.
Fantastic.
So, what would you say about your guest experience on the show today?
It's been wonderful. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, great. And what would you say is your final word or
That
words?
for me, it's about leading a life of significance to support others, leaving a legacy, and honoring those who have gone and who are battling this journey. That's what it's about for me.
Okay, great. Well, you've been a great guest, and you've certainly illuminated and informed me about what's out there. I had no clue that 9% of the U.S. population is afflicted with rare diseases, and I wish you good solace. And I'm going to make the introduction to a good advocate for you after the call today. And a couple ladies, actually. I've got another lady, a big nurse advocate, nurse. She has a PhD in nursing. I'm going to introduce you to. So I'm going to make that introduction to you. And thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you succeed in helping others.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.